Ladies and gentlemen, it's the MGN Nation Podcast. Welcome to it. All right, big, huge, giant game this weekend. If you feel like perhaps you can skip this weekend or something, you know what I mean? Like, I'd love to watch the game, but I can't because I don't know, I got to cut the grass or something like that. Don't do that. It's an important game. So, like, not only does North Texas have a chance to go 3-0, which is the first time since 2018, right? You get a chance to beat a P4, P5, autonomous 5, autonomous 4. Let's just say a bigger school, right? Like Texas Tech is like similar in school size to North Texas, but I think more people know Texas Tech than know North Texas, right? They have a 60,000 seat stadium, and they regularly put 60,000 in there. North Texas is trying to get 30,000 this weekend, right? Next weekend at what is it called? Is it like Family Weekend or something? Yeah, where Wyoming's coming to town, right? This is not in dispute. We all kind of know this is the case here, right? I've long argued that a Texas Tech and like a Baylor and those kinds of schools wouldn't be as big or as popular if they didn't have Texas in the conference for all those years, right? Texas, Oklahoma, that kind of thing. Like you look at like an SMU and Rice and TCU as examples of it. They were in the Southwest Conference for like 50, 60 years or whatever it was. They got left out of the the new Big 12 when it happened, right? They were in the Southwest Conference, moved to Big 12. They kind of wandered the wilderness for a while, right? TCU was just TCU joined like 4 conferences, right? They're in the WAC, the Mountain West. I think they were, in Conference USA for a little bit. Finally, they got back to the Big 12, right? Rice is still sort of in that situation. Like Rice can fill up a stadium when they play Houston, when they play Texas, when they play Oklahoma, that kind of thing. Like Baylor was terrible for a long time, right? They're awful. And then they got a coach that they don't want to talk about anymore. They won some things, built a new stadium, and they have a lot of Big 12 money for a lot of years, right? That Big 12 money helped them win a national championship in basketball, helped them get good in football, and now they're like, hey, yeah, look at us, we're Baylor, we're pretty good. Lost in all that are the actual political configurations, machinations behind the scenes. Like North Texas is trying to get in on that, right? We got access to the state fund. We're trying to be more active. I say we, mean like the alums or people that are hired by the people that care. We're trying to get access to state money, state dollars, and get in on a little of this stuff there. It's small things that lead to big things. So all that is a background here. North Texas football is not going to get better unless it has more resources. You get more resources, you can use those resources to get better football players, better coaches, better preparation, so that you can go win football games, right? Is it all about that? I mean, yes and no. And we be honest, it is all about that for a lot of things, right? And that's been the conversation in the past couple of days about like moving to the Pac-12. Not that it's like an option. We're not voting on it or anything like that, but there are rumors that the Pac-12 is looking to get more teams, and some Texas teams in particular. And a lot of people, national guys, are throwing around UTSA. I wonder what that's about. Like, I wonder where they're getting that information. Going back to the political thing, I think the University of Texas, the Texas system, just made the decision to merge UT Health Science, the health UT Health is what it is. It's like just outside of San Antonio, like northwest of San Antonio, with the UTSA system, just for like management and administration purposes. Now, the goofs that think that that means that Jeff Traylor is going to get more money from that are silly. But I think there is some aspect of joining of being affiliated with a big university with a lot of money so that we can be prestigious. I think that does matter to some of the Pac-12 kind of people. Remember that Cal and Stanford didn't want like a Texas because they felt like Texas wasn't as prestigious of a school, right? They're like, we're Cal, we're Stanford, and we don't even like being in a league with Oregon or Oregon State, and we definitely don't want to be in there with Texas or Oklahoma. So I'm taking a sip over here. And that was the same thing with like the Big Ten. Big Ten was big on academics and that kind of thing. They like we don't want to be like the SEC that only cares about football. Now, sure they win this, that, and the other, but we have other things on our mind. Now, all that aside, um, I don't know that from a footballing perspective, that being in the same league as Washington State and Oregon State, San Diego State, Boise State. I mean, we're gonna have to change our name to North Texas State again, I guess, if we're gonna join up with them. Like all of that is difficult for the same reasons that it's difficult joining up with a Charlotte, a Florida Atlantic, Florida International, that kind of thing. We need to have easier places to travel, right? For the non-revenue sports, right? Your everything else. Now, I also acknowledge that in the modern college athletics landscape, teams are just getting rid of everything and saying, we'll just be like a co-ed team, like a club team, and we're not going to spend any money on this anyway. All this money is going to go right back into the revenue sports, football, basketball. That's the only thing that matters. But whatever. I mean, I don't make those decisions. I'm not in part of those conversations. I will say though that like I do not like being in a league with like in 2004 when North Texas won the Sun Belt Championship. We're coming up about to celebrate that. It's going to be was part of the reason for doing this family day, trying to sell out Dat Coup. I always want to say Apogee. Next weekend they're going to celebrate the team. Is that they were in a league with like FIU, FAU, Middle Tennessee, Idaho, and others, right? New Mexico State. A lot of places where you're just like the third or fourth school in a state that has other ones. And so it was tough, right? Like the college football game. I think it was EA Sports NCAA 2003. It said that our rival was Middle Tennessee State. Now, that's not true for you and me. I don't really get, hot and bothered for Middle Tennessee. But you can see they're like, well, I guess they're sort of competing for championships or whatever. Maybe they are rivals. I guess. All that to say is like I think we have a much more fun and healthy rivalry with UTSA, and I've been a fan, I've long been a fan of including the Texas State in there. North Texas has had a history. We played Texas State like 40 times or something like that. You can see that they have a good little football program now. They were terrible for a while there, but they have a good football program now. And it's in state, right? You can travel down to San Marcos. You can have a little smack talking session with friends and family and stuff like that. A lot of people know people that went to Texas State. I used to call it 13th grade. When I was born in San Antonio, people would go to San Marcos. It was Southwest Texas State at the time, and they're like, yeah, it's everybody's there again, or they talk about party schooling or whatever. That it was maybe you'd go there for a couple years and then try to transfer to Texas or something. It was the same thing with UTSA. People would go to UTSA and say, then I'm gonna transfer to like Southwest Texas State or to Texas or somewhere else. Like this is just a way station. It's sort of like a community college. And so, whatever. People making their own decisions in their own life and stuff. I think I know a lot of people went to Texas State, went to UTSA, that kind of thing. And I think it's fun to give them a little, that's part of the fun of college football rivalries and that kind of thing. It's hard to get excited about Western Kentucky, in part because nobody knows Western Kentucky, right? You're like, yeah, we're playing Western Kentucky this weekend. And people are like, oh, what is that? Like Kentucky, like the blue? No. This is Western Kentucky, and you have to give a big speech explaining who they are and what they are and that kind of stuff. So even if like the UTSAers, the Texas Staters, whatever, they're talking mess about North Texas, they at least know who we are. when we traveled, North Texas traveled to Cal a few years ago. Was it 2019? Yeah, I think it was. Um, I went, right? Took the family out there and had a good time. And the Cal people, nice enough people, were kind of asking what North Texas was. They're like, so is that like where is North Texas? And I explained, it's like, about 45 minutes north of Dallas, over there. And they're like, oh, okay. So, like, okay. And then they kind of got it. All right, coffee time. Hold on. I need to play like coffee drinking music. What's a good coffee drinking music like this? Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do when I take another sip of coffee. Um, so you have the situation where like it's not fun. When they were looking at us like, oh, hey, look at you guys, isn't it cute how y'all traveling out here? That was fun. Same thing. Tennessee did that. I'm a fan of playing like a Cal, a Washington State. We have a series coming up with them. A Texas Tech. You know, some of these also ran kind of P5 school league teams. Like Texas Tech's picked ninth in the conference this year. Like Arizona State's picked 12th in the Big 12 or 16th in the Big 12 this year, and like they played at Texas State. Arizona State's happy to travel. They went down to San Antonio. They're happy to travel someplace. They don't have any qualms about doing some home and homes kind of deal. I think Arizona was doing that with UTSA too. Um, I'm a fan. Let's get on that bandwagon. Like I like that we brought Indiana to Denton. Right? Let's do that. Let's play Illinois. Let's play at Arkansas. I think Arkansas they get a little hoity-toity. They don't want to play anybody, but like in Kentucky, you can come to Denton, Kentucky, right? Let's find those programs and bring them over here and do that kind of thing. Uh, I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of playing Iowa. We went to Iowa. Let's see if we can't get Iowa over here. Let's see if we can't get Iowa State down here. Something. I liked Kansas State. Kansas State was willing to come to Denton. That was fun. Um, and if they're like, well, I don't know, we have so many fans, you can't fill up, Daku. Well, then let's go rent out, the Jerry World or something like that. That's fine. We can find a bigger stadium. The Metroplex is huge enough. Let's go to the Cotton Bowl. We'll play at the Cotton Bowl. I don't care. My point is that I don't want to be in the league with them. I'm happy to play them. Let's do that. That's fun. I don't mind that at all. But uh, let's not be in the league with them, because as difficult as it is to travel or to plan to do that with um, our football team, right? You can at least plan around. You know what it's going to be. It's a weekend game. It's very difficult to do that with soccer, right? Volleyball, the basketball team, that kind of thing. It's going to be empty stadiums, empty crowds. The vibe's not going to be there. It's not going to be as fun. I would much rather be in and around other programs that are nearer to us for those reasons that I mentioned already. And also just the travel is less burdensome, right? So you're gonna make all this money. You think being in the league with in the Pac-12, whatever, it better cover those ridiculous costs, right? And so if you have a version of the Pac-12 or something where you have basically what we have now, like it's like, hey, we're gonna transfer the 2013 Conference USA West division and make it Pac-12. That's fine. Like I thought that was the best version of our league, 2013 Conference USA. We had Louisiana Tech, Tulsa, UTSA, Rice, and I think it was like UTEP out there. And if you swap UTEP for like a Texas State, even better, right? You just drive down I-35. I love that. Makes it super easy on everybody, and then including us. For me, I lived in San Antonio at that time. I knew that I could either stay there for North Texas visiting San Antonio, or I could go out to Houston, you know, uh, every year. So I knew we were going to have one road game, and then you could always drive up to Denton to have a good time, enjoy the show, right? That is the ideal version of a league division to me. And then there's like the longer trips, and you take some of those, you can plan those out. That's fine. But keep it regional. That's number one for me. All right, let's talk about Texas Tech. It's a big game. It was like 13 minutes talking about the Pac-12 hypothetical. Texas Tech they're having like a Ring of Honor weekend. They're 1-1 on the season. They're expecting a pretty big crowd. They're going to induct Wes Welker into the Ring of Honor. It's a homecoming game for Eric Morris. I should have queued up the audio for it, but when I talked to him last, right, once upon a time, I think it was 2018. Yeah, the year we went 2-0. I interviewed him. In San Antonio, right? He was in a little trailer there at Incarnate Word. And I was like, well, yeah, you're going to play there. It's kind of weird. He was kind of like, why are you, the Mean Green guy, coming in? And I explained it. I was like, oh, I live here, blah, blah, whatever. I talked to him. He's a good interview. He kind of was happy to speak, happy to talk his program, this, that, and the other. And, he said something when I asked about Incarnate Word having some guys from the Dallas area. Like, are you excited about that? What do you think about that? His point of view was refreshing, I thought, because he said, I don't like it, right? Because you have guys that start focusing on the stands, playing differently because their mom's there, their friends are there, their family's there. I just want you to focus on your task. And that's what we've been talking about this whole week, right? We got to focus. Like North Texas had just beat up SMU, and he said, we're thinking about that. They just, stomped the mud hole into SMU. We got to think about that. And I think based on Chandler Morris's press conference on Monday, he said Eric Morris is doing the same thing. Now, he's done a couple of interviews because, he's happy to do an interview. But he said in all of those things, hey, you know what? This is not about me. This is about the players, about North Texas. My mom's going to be wearing green. People were like, well, what if I do a half jersey, half green, half red and black? And she's like, nah, you wear green or it's nothing. And I think that's the right approach, right? Texas Tech did a lot for Eric Morris in his career, in his life, and it's a big part of his life. But right now, his mortgage, I don't even think he has a mortgage, but his mortgage is paid by the University of North Texas, right? He's getting a couple $1 million a year, whatever it is. That's what's, doing the big chunk of stuff. You want to go buy something, you wait for that North Texas check to hit, right? They're in a different league. I don't know how they work, guys. So this is an opportunity for North Texas. It reminds me of that 2018 season. You have in that year we beat up an FBS school that was SMU at the time, 46-13 or something. Then we blew out Incarnate Word. Was it 58-13 or something like that? And then we went to Arkansas and whooped up on them. It was like 44 to 13 or something like that. We killed them. And the other thing was like sort of like a homecoming for Mason Fine, because he said he grew up a big Arkansas guy. Being in Oklahoma, just close to Arkansas. It's sort of a lot of parallels there, right? We beat up on USA, a red and white team, red and white and blue, just like SMU. We beat up an FCS squad, albeit not in as tremendous a fashion, right, in Stephen F. Austin. But they had Texas Tech ties too, right? Just like Incarnate Word did. And then we go down, to a big program, and we whooped up on them, right? So are we going to do the same thing? We're going to go to Tech and whoop them? Tech is down, just like that Arkansas team was down. That team finished 0-8 in the league play. They lost to Colorado State the week previous, but they beat like an FCS school. This Texas Tech team has beaten an FCS school, Abilene Christian, albeit 52-51 in overtime. It was just because Abilene Christian, on the 2-point play, the wide receiver slipped. I think it's like Blaine Taylor, that dude that killed us when he played us last year, had 3 scores against us. He slipped on they were going to throw a little fade route, which I hate, but he was going to throw a fade route to him. So the QB McIver decides to do a little QB draw, and he slips, and he gets tackled, sacked. He had a guy wide open also if he would have got his eyes up. But it was that close. It was one play away from overtime number 2, and Abilene Christian was moving the ball easily against his Texas Tech defense. Tech was moving the ball easily against that Abilene Christian defense, but that's what you expect, right? The quarterback, Baron Morton, had 500-something yards. 400-something yards, and then 5 touchdowns. Taj Brooks had 154 yards rushing. All well and good, right? You expect him to move the ball well. You don't expect him to get sliced up. Abilene Christian sliced him up. All right, fast forward to last week against Washington State in Pullman, right? More connections, more everybody. It's basically Texas Tech alumni meet up again. Well, Washington State, which is not very good, they sliced them up. A lot of it was QB runs. Mateer, the QB, I think he's a Texas kid, and I think he was recruited by Eric Morris also. Uh, he's out there doing big business, running for big yards, um, and then Texas Tech struggles to move the ball offensively. They did not have Taj Brooks, and Joey. I want to call him Jerry. Joey McGuire was like, well, I think our QB was just a little bit. Um, he was a little bit. He's pressing because he's like, I don't have my running back. Let me just try to force the ball downfield. Now all that might be well and good, but if you look at Baron Morton's history, he's always good for an interception. I think he threw 8 last year. He had 15 scores, 8 interceptions. They relied heavily on Taj Brooks. He had 1,500 yards rushing last year, so that's what you're going to see in all these games, right? Joey McGuire also said, like, look, we played ACU. They're basically our offense. We played Washington State. They're basically our offense, right? Because the guy Arbuckle learned under Kitley. Kitley learned under Eric Morris and what's his name, Cliff Kingsbury, and everybody's a Mike Leach guy, right? Air raids everywhere, so everybody kind of runs this stuff. North Texas is very familiar to them, but like Texas Tech's very familiar to North Texas, right? They run a lot of the same stuff in the same kind of ways. Eric Morris knows how they think. I think all of that is just kind of running your normal practice. You kind of get it. Now, the difference is in talent, and that's always a difference in these things, right? Like, you can know that a power run is coming your way, but if you can't block it, it doesn't matter if you know where it's going to be, right? And then if you start hedging, because I know it's going to be here and I want to get an extra step, they can play fake you and go the other way. And then it's an even bigger gashing run, right? Gaping hole, gashing run. So what to do, right? That's the big difference in this one is that Baron Morton has a big arm. He can throw the ball. He will throw an interception. I posted in the write-up and the actual written word version of it where he kind of threw some terrible interceptions against Washington State. We'll happily take those, right? That's what we want. What Washington State did was keep everything in front of them. They did get beat deep a couple times, but for the most part, they made Texas Tech try to execute, and that's where they made mistakes. Tech is big. They have big tight ends. They like to split them out wide. They'll throw the ball to their dynamic wide receivers, number 5, number 3. Number 8 is a big guy. And they have a freshman guy that they've been trying to get the ball to more. I think his name is Hudson or something, like Micah Hudson, number 1. They'll screen you to death. And Texas Tech fans are like, oh, we're just throwing all these wide receiver screens. Yes, but that's also just a run game, right? Like in the air raid offense, you take the short passes that are there if the team is the defensive team is just giving you lots of space and protecting over the top. You take the underneath stuff, you move the ball down the field. Please recall that North Texas did this against South Alabama, right? Eric Morris said that USA was just covering the top. They didn't want to. They kept their safeties back, and so they were just happy to slice and dice, right? Run the ball, throw underneath, take it all day, move the ball down the field, go score a touchdown later. Tech will do that to us. They were happy to do it. Against Washington State, they kept throwing the same receiver screen until Washington State changed the numbers, moved the safety out, walked the linebacker out, and then they said, okay, now it's time to run up the middle, right? They'll do the same thing. I posted a video on this, so go read the thing. You can see that they throw a quick receiver screen. Washington State is like screaming up the field to try to stop this eventually, right? They get a tackle. They go no huddle. Everything's no huddle now. And then they throw it over the top. Now Baron Morton just completely misses the dude wide open. So we're hoping for that. Keep everything in front of you. Make tackles in space. And get pressure on the quarterback, and I think we'll be fine, right? Some heartening news is that South Alabama scored 87 points. They only played a 6-minute fourth quarter. They had 80 in the third. Some of that was just short fields, but they were just scoring from everywhere. They beat Northwestern State. And so you're like, well, we held that 87-point potential type team to, what was it, 38? And then we held that 77-point score in Stephen F. Austin. Steve Austin there to whatever it was to 10 points. I think they scored was it 20, but it was like 10 points of their own. That's not terrible either. I don't hate that. Now, there's differences in talent there and that kind of thing, but I think that's commendable for North Texas defense. And again, our goal is not to shut Texas Tech out. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously you want that, but we're not saying we're going to hold them to zero. But if we can make them work for their touchdowns, if we can make them go deeper in their bag, if we can make them take long drives, 15-play drives, where they can't get in rhythm and they need to press and they need to reach deep in there and then find their 6'9" tight end on a trick play, leak out play, that's fine, right? We just need a couple turnovers. We need a couple stops, and then we can say that's their game plan, right? That's doing enough. That's what we need. That's what we need from the defense. Offensively, that's the strength. Chandler Morris seen it, done it in Big 12 stadiums. He's played at TCU for a while. He's done it versus Baylor. Joey McGuire was a coach over there. He's thrown for 400 yards against a Big 12 defense, and there's not a good Big 12 defense, right? They're a little light. Their defensive tackles are about 300 pounds. They're in this 4-2-5 kind of defense, a little hybrid, right, like everybody else, coached by Tim DeRuyter. Washington State was able to get push. I didn't post the clip of it, but ACU was able to get push, right? They have, about as talented of a line as North Texas. That's what we want. We want that same kind of push. That's our question mark, right? We have injuries and backups and question marks all along the offensive line. Stephen F. Austin just dominated our offensive line, and we had 15 penalties. Now, what I like is that Eric Morris said, we worked on that. We worked on blitz pickup. And then I like that he said, look, no excuses. Dixon, if you're playing center, you got to know the snap count. And you got to make the snap, and you can't pause and read, you can't be new. You got to go out there and play. So they worked on it, which is all you can do, and try their best to get them ready for 60,000 people yelling and having to know the snap count and making it. Now, that's the big question. I think, dare I say that Texas Tech's defensive line is not as dangerous as that Stephen F. Austin defensive line, right? I mean, there was talent on that Stephen F. Austin squad. That transfer from Baylor was blowing up Michael Lee over there. He killed it, put him on a poster basically, put him in a GIF. We're going to see a little bit of that. My hope is that Duncan, Gabe Blair maybe, are back in there and that they were kind of saving them up for a Big 12 matchup, right, on the road. Experienced dudes, Big 12 stuff. Like, we can get through Stephen F. Austin. We can get through this game while preserving our dudes. I'm hoping that's the case. Landon Peterson should be back. He's day-to-day. Gabe Blair, Jet Duncan, all should be back. Tyler Mercer, I think they said he's day-to-day also. He had a wrist thing. He broke his wrist or something. You can play with a cast. It's not terrible. It doesn't make it great, but also maybe prevents you from holding. I don't know. The long and the short of it is that's where it all starts, that offensive line. North Texas hasn't been able to get some push. We're down a couple running backs, right? Obviously, the Jawan Price injury. And then Ragsdale, I think he might be a little iffy. He hasn't had the same kind of burst as he did before his injury. They kept him out a year. I think he's kind of getting back into it. I like what Demasha Harris brought. And we might see Zach Evans. And I think they said McGill might be out there. But it's really going to be Ragsdale and Harris with a sprinkling of Evans if we can get it. That's really it. We're not going to live and die on the run game. What matters is Chandler Morris doing RPOs, finding the guys, hitting them in space, and turning up the field. The danger guys, right? Damon Ward on the outside at Z. DT Sheffield showing game-breaking speed at the Y. And Landon Sides, Wyatt Young doing things at the H. And then whatever we can get from Blair Conrad, right? Yeah, I think he's good. He hasn't really showed out so far this season. But I think in this offense, everybody gets a turn, right? Ward was week 1. Sheffield week 2. I think, Conrad scored in week 1 also, but he only had that one catch. 25 yards, touchdown. Whatever. All that matters is touchdown North Texas. This team can move the ball. We've seen Chandler Morris play at a high level. He can move the ball. I think Tech they have talent, right? The Ben Roberts kid, number 13, he's a good linebacker. They have solid linebackers. What I noticed is that they were reacting to ACU, and they weren't playing with aggression, and that beat them, right? Abilene Christian moved the ball pretty much however they wanted, up and down the field, running standard air raid stuff. Right? Here's a mesh. Here's 92. Here's 94. Here's 618. Here's 617. It was all the same stuff. Nothing crazy. They didn't do any exotic things. They just, MacGyver was making reads, made the throws. I thought Mateer did similar things. He just a little bit more of a wild guy. Like he throws the ball like 100 miles an hour when it just needs to be about 70 miles an hour so the guy can make a catch. And so there were a couple of drop Washington State things, but they ran the ball well. And yes, the QB run was very dangerous, but that's Washington State football. I think Chandler Morris will be able to scramble his way into some good yardage if the line can give him some decent protection, right? We can move the pocket a little bit if we have to. We saw a little bit of that, but nothing crazy. I think Morris is sort of saving some of that for this game. Like USA was a big game because of the opener, and it was a solid opponent, right? Bowl opponent. They won 7 games last year. Stephen F. Austin, that was supposed to be just sort of a tune-up, and you could see it. I don't think North Texas had to try very hard to move the ball, right? Little play action, throw the ball deep, right, on a Mills concept, throw the ball deep over the top. They found lots of yards, had an 80-yard run, for example. There was a lot of hidden yards, I think Morris mentioned this too, where they had 10, 15, 12-yard gains, and then it gets called back for a holding, false start, this, that, and the other. You clean up some of that, I think this offense still looked very good, right? And they kind of kept some in reserve. I don't think they played Evans when they could have. I don't think they played some of the linemen or brought him back when they could have. If there was ever, a reason to keep your powder dry, it was that game. They had it in the bag that everything is fine. They just need to make better decisions with the football. So, can they beat Texas Tech? Yes, they can. They definitely can. I wrote in the season preview that I thought that Tech probably has a little too much Big 12 talent and kind of it just, is too much for North Texas. I still see that as a reasonable thing, but I feel a little bit more positive about North Texas than I did in the preseason just because I've seen them play. Like, I thought this offense was going to be good, but then I saw, wow, Chandler Morris is better, in my opinion, than Chandler Rogers in a lot of aspects. Like, just dealing the ball, getting rid of it quicker, making the right decisions. He did turn the ball over 3 times and almost a fourth last week, but I seen him play just almost a perfect game against USA. And then the defense has been improved. We thought they would be improved. The defensive line has been, I don't want to say outstanding, but they were outstanding against Stephen F. Austin. I think Dawkins is getting the kind of push that we were hoping for from that other defensive end. We need at least one sort of an anchor defensive end to go along with Rod Brown. I think the backups to Rod Brown have been good, solid. They haven't made plays yet, but that's really it. It's like, can you make the other team, play second down? Because I think sometimes against Cal and other teams, they never got to second down because they were just gashing us, especially late in the game. And I thought North Texas has been good enough in those aspects, getting pressure on the quarterback, collapsing the pocket with 3, and that makes it tremendously difficult to throw the ball. We saw Gio Lopez for USA misfire on the ball because he had pressure in his face a couple times. Same thing with what's his name? I can't even remember his name. Stid something. For the SFA kid. So Baron Morton, he can scoot a little bit, and Tech has just much bigger talent. They get that tight end, 6'9", 270. He's built like a left tackle, and they'll slide him over, right? And say just help in the pass protection. We'll have 6-man protection with basically an extra O lineman, right? And then if you're not paying attention, we'll send him out for a pass. You can catch it, throw it up to him. 6'9" dude, and then they have speedy, dynamic wide receivers. Like one played at Washington State, one played I can't remember the other guy played, but Aiken was recruited by Eric Morris. He thinks a lot of him. And then they have it was a Douglas, Kelly, Aiken, and then Hudson are their other dudes. And then obviously the main dude is Taj Brooks, 1,500 yards last year. He's hard to bring down in space. He's a big dude. He'll run through tackles. He's questionable with an arm injury, but I think we're probably going to see him out there. He was held out last week, and that's really a danger. Tech will make you tackle. They will make you tackle in space, and I think that's one thing we have seen improve from North Texas, but we haven't seen them really tested by a good team. This will be a gigantic test of that aspect of their ability defensively. Um, North Texas plays this three high safety look. We see a lot of split field coverages. That means like cover two, quarters coverage. Sometimes they roll the safety down, do a little cover three, but it's all match stuff. They say basically we're going to flood the area to stop these kind of spread offenses. You're not going to be able to find the underneath zones, right? Like in a cover three, you have four underneath, and then three up top. But there can be some underneath stuff that you can do some match stuff, so you can match those guys. But if you had another dude out there and then also change the angles on the blocks because you don't know where that's going, it makes the line think a little bit more, and you have more guys in coverage, right, to protect against that. And then the idea is that we'll just fly up and stop the run, right? Instead of saying we're not going to allow any run yards, right? We're going to stop you at the line. We're fine giving you 3 yards. You can do 3 yards, but we're not going to give you the game-breaking play over the top. That's the idea anyway, right? No word on if those guys suspended will play. It sounds like no. They're suspended indefinitely, so it's the same guys who've been rolling out, guys I think have played well. Again, it was Stephen F. Austin, and Stephen F. Austin doesn't have the talent that Texas Tech University does. So expect some scores. Expect some busted coverages. Expect some long drives, some explosive plays from Texas Tech. That's what they give you. Don't freak out about that. But we want some stops. We want some forced punts, that kind of thing. In special teams, they have a kid. Whose name May, I think it is. He's pretty good. I think he was like an FCS transfer, and he's like a game breaker. You gotta look out when kicking to him. And then North Texas is rolling out Sheffield back there, and then hoping he can do what Juwan Price is doing. I think Juwan Price was on pace to take one to the house against somebody not good, and maybe even against somebody good. And we'll see what Sheffield has. I think he muffed that punt last week, and he got scared. We all saw that, and then Eric Morris acknowledged that. He said, I think he got scared, but he has to shake that off and just be himself, be a game breaker. Morris returned punts himself, so I think he can speak on that a little bit more intelligently than anybody else could. So, yeah, I think the line is like 8, and I think, what did I say? Like, we'd lose like 38-21 or something like that. Like, we'd stick close, and then we'd kind of lose it late. That was my initial prediction. Now I think it's going to be a little closer, but I still think Tech has just a little bit too much depth. And that's really the difference, is that we're looking at freshmen and transfers with little experience against their experienced dudes and high-rated recruits, right? And I think it's going to make the difference later in the game, and that's going to be it. You look at, like, say, Texas State against Arizona State last night. It was a lot of the same kind of thing where like Texas State looked like they just couldn't do the next thing, right? They used up all their tricks early, and then they kind of got stonewalled, lost the ball 3 straight times at the end of the game, right? It was a fumble, a terrible interception, and then a 4th down turnover on downs, right? That was it. And I feel like North Texas is sort of in that same boat, but it's going to happen defensively, where like maybe they have all the tricks early, but then they can't get stops late just because they're out of tricks, and they don't have just another guy to come in and make a stop. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong, but that's just kind of how I see the game. Sorry, somebody sent me a text message. But that's it. There's a quick preview. No Aldo this time. So we're still trying to work out how exactly we're going to get this midweek podcast going on this preview. I was a little late this week because I had real life work. So it goes. We'll have the Sunday morning podcast. Same deal. All good. Thanks for listening. Go Mean Green.